Good evening, welcome to the November 7th, 2017 Dayton City Council meeting. All rise, roll call.
Mayor Bresky.
Here.
Member Volter.
Here.
Member Burns.
Here.
Member Neary.
Here.
Member Baker.
Here.
Member Haas.
Here.
Member Lynn.
Here.
City Administrator Giffen.
Here.
City Attorney Attorney.
Here.
All rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, if anyone from the audience would like to address council, come up to the podium, state your name, address.
My name is Mandy Betts. I live at 201 Clay Street, apartment C2, Dayton, Kentucky. I'm here to talk about the changes in the park ordinance that's going to be read tonight for the second time. I'm a member of the park board, and because of being a member and myself, I think it should be changed. There's some good in it, kind of like the dive park, since we no longer have dive park. But a lot of it, I don't think. I think it's a lot of power given to one person with nobody else's say in it. By not having the citizens part of it to be able to vote on certain things and leaving it completely up to the mayor's discretion. There are certain parts in it, I think it's 95.38 posting of advertisements. They're actually taking out a part where the mayor would be able to say or agree to or disagree, but if they disagreed, there was nobody else to go to appeal it. That's also with events as well, with the 95.04 application for permit. It says through the mayor, the application for the park permit within 30 days, but then underneath that, where it used to be C, it actually says that they used to be able to take it to city council to appeal that decision. That part's going to be taken out. So if their advertisement or their event is decided that it's not good enough, or if the mayor decides that it's not there, there's nobody else to go and say, hey, can I appeal this, or anything like that. The other thing is our September meeting for the park board, the mayor and Mr. Griffin were there, and nothing was really said about the ordinance being changed. And I even also asked, because we are one park board member down, if we could have another one appointed to us. He kind of laughed it off and said, oh, you guys have enough. So then this comes out that they're going to change the ordinance, which I kind of think is why it's kind of laughed off, because there might not even be it. Excuse me. Last night at our meeting, or yesterday in the email, was the first time that I actually got a copy of the ordinance. According to the other park board members as well, they had not seen it until yesterday. So as we're going through this, I asked the mayor last night at our meeting kind of what brought it out. He said that it was kind of easier if it was ran through the city, that we wouldn't have to wait for a 30-day meeting to come and get different things approved. But looking back at previous attendance records, for 2016, we had 12 meetings, and the mayor only attended 3, and the city administrator was at none of them. For 2017, there's been 11 meetings. The mayor was at 3, and the city administrator was at 1. So if there's anything that needed to be done in those 30 days, there's plenty of time that they didn't even take a chance to come and talk to us about. There's another part in the amusement for gaming. The way that I'm reading this and understanding this is this where you're allowed admission to be charged into the park? Is that what that part is for?
Which section are you looking at?
It's the 95.39 amusement for gaming. where there's no charge to be made and into the park.
It's struck out with it.
Yeah, that's
It's
it.
eliminating the
It's
possibility that.
yeah, it's eliminating essentially the negative there. Essentially, any kind of, if there is amusement for gain, they didn't put it in their permit application, and then they would be approved or denied, but there's not a specific, takes out that ordinance section as it relates to it, so that way it's just an additional item that was in there that was honestly a little hard to regulate versus the fact that you had to get a permit in.
Okay, well, with that part, when the Civic Club follows the Music Fest, they allow the 2 youth football and the youth baseball to ask for donations into the park. Would that be cutting out?
Oh, no, actually it'd be allowing it, it'd actually be giving it, giving them the ability to do that.
So then in previous years, when we've asked, the park board has asked about allowing that and not being,
The park board had to approve it first. Because
but we did not approve it.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, it was up to the park board to approve it as part of the permit, which it was gonna approve any kind of special event permit, it was kind of repetitive.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's, like, for the past 2 years, we've asked about that, and we, because we weren't really sure, because, at the previous, just this past year, there was families paying $12, and they would come up to different park board members and say, how come I paid? You know, the school doesn't let us charge to come into the softball games, or for the baseball games that would benefit them, but now we're paying $12 just to come into the park. So that one's kind of confusing.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not sure.
well, that's why it's going away, is so that way there isn't the confusion about it, it's not gonna exist. That way then it'll be up to the you'll fill in the permit with what you're doing, why you're doing it, et cetera, and then it'll be approved or denied,
Okay,
and that'd be the influence.
okay.
Yeah, no, that's part of the reason why that's, because A, it's competitive, because you're going for the permit anyway, if you're doing a special event, and B, for the confusion that you're having with it is why that was deleted.
Okay.
It makes it easier if, it's not in there, and then that way we're not having this discussion.
The other thing is, there's a few things that happened on the park board that there was never really a vote on. The mayor's already just decided, like when we lost our park director, he had Public Works come in, and our understanding was that it was only to get the parks up to code that was really slacking, which Public Works has done an amazing job painting and doing different fixtures and new lightings. But it was our understanding that the amount payment for the park director was just to be frozen, not to be used elsewhere, because we actually asked about putting that money into a different part of the budget. And he said it was to be frozen. Then there was money that was coming out of it, which we found out that was being used towards Public Works, because they are now the park director. Once everything was back up to code and up to par and doing good, we asked again if we could hire a park director to do different things, such as dragging the fields, just little things, watering fields, different things like that, so that somebody would actually be there. There is times that the Coke machine needs fixing, and not everybody can just drop and go there. And we were told that Public Works is now our park director. That was never voted on, where the money went or who our park director was.
The money went back into the general fund, they did not go to the public, it went to the general fund.
But then out of that general, but it was told us that it would just sit there.
It is, it's in the general fund, that's the pot of money, that's the general fund, that's not going to the park. We didn't send that to Public Works, that's what you're saying, it went to Public Works.
Well, I do have emails that say that, because when we've asked about it in the meetings, and I asked Donna about it, and I do have emails where it says that Public Works is our new park director, and that's where that money is. It doesn't say that it goes, just to sit into the general fund. It does state that that money does go to the park director.
It goes back into the general fund as they're performing the service. So that's why it comes out of the park fund and back into the general fund. Just like the other fees that have already done that in years past, we've been already maintaining flood more on some of the other parks, which just essentially goes back into that money back into the general fund. So it doesn't go to Public Works directly, they're not getting compensated for it. It just goes back into the general fund of the city as a service.
Okay, that's pretty much it. I just think that by changing this ordinance, putting that all towards the mayor, letting the mayor make all the decisions, the citizens are not going to have a say. It could be, I'm not saying that you mayor would do it, but if another mayor comes in and says he wants a water fountain in the middle of the basketball court, there's no one to go against. If he wants to change the name, is there anybody there that's going to say, no, this has been Gilman Park, you know, this has been, you know, the Vine Street Park, whatever. Is there anybody, my understanding of this is there's no one there to stop anything that we're doing.
I can clarify this. So by ordinance, the city council, to answer that last question, any changing of names would come through the city council in the form of ordinance, just like this is. You see the first part, which is an addition that lists some new names of the parks and some official names of the parks. So first and foremost, the mayor can't just decide to change the name.
But the mayor, if under this, if the mayor wants to do a change inside the park,
Well, so let me explain.
who would be able to?
Yeah, so I'll explain a little bit further. So the essence of how we would set this up would be just like any other fund of the city, where the city council sets the budget. So the city council would set the budget for the parks for that year, which would include capital expenditures, any particular projects would go into that budget, just like any other fund of the city. So that's when there's going to be collaboration between the park board and the city is when you get into the budget process, what does the park board have in mind for things that they feel that need to be done to not just Gilliland Park, but all of the parks? You got to remember we've got 3 other parks other than Gilliland, plus another one coming online. So it's at that point where there's interaction between the park board and the city. The council sets the budget, and once the budget's set, the city, myself, and the mayor, we have to work within the constraints of that budget. So it's not just the mayor just can't get a whim and decide, well, I'm just going to go spend $50,000.
Well, even if the water fountain would be free, and it is given to you in donation, this is a free thing, and he says, I want it at center of that basketball court. Right now, we have a park board of certain members that can say, yeah, that's a good idea, no, that's not a good idea, and there's a voting part to it. By reading this,
Some of your voting parts to it. The city of Dayton, the police chief, the lieutenant, and the city manager asked you not to have a basketball tournament down there. You had it anyway, and ended up with a gun run, but other cities have to come to clear up the whole mess that was down there.
and I understand that, and by what they were describing was the issue was not a violence issue, it was more of where their money went, and considering.
When guns are called, that's a violent issue. I mean, people ain't supposed to be pulling guns out.
Well, no, they're not, and we could just, if it was a music fest and Easter event, I have, I think, 5 people in my family that can carry concealed weapons, so if I have a party at the park, at any time, there could be a weapon. I cannot foreshadow that a gun was there.
I'm saying a weapon being stored.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying, but the issues that were brought to us was not that there were violent issues, it was where their money went from the scholarship.
Well, so that was one of the main things that kind of triggered this discussion, and you're right, that was one of the first things that came to mind from the police department was that this was kind of a fake scholarship organization that was one of this event, but there were other instances of that group being in our city in previous years where there were more issues than just the scholarship, and the issues with alcohol, and if I'm remembering correctly, I went back to the emails, that there was some altercations in previous years too. So it wasn't like we didn't know that this group didn't bring with it some other baggage. I was looking back to the email that was mentioned. When that was approved, after myself and one of the superior officers recommending not to approve it, and we did have an issue, and thankfully it didn't turn into something bigger than it was, but that's really what triggered us looking at this in a little bit more depth. One, we had already taken back over the full maintenance of the park because things weren't getting done with the park director. We were already having to do it. So not only did we take over the maintenance, but then we didn't have control over, we were being ignored on the permitting process. After that happened, I sat down with all the council members and kind of outlaid those concerns. We sat down with them and had a conversation on the phone, and that's kind of what sparked us drafting this ordinance. Now, I believe that the way that we have it set up, where the park board can still interact with the city council as far as setting the budget, you can still get all of the capital improvements and ideas that you all want to do at these parks heard and known to council. And having worked with them already, some of them for multiple years, some of them for just this year, we're going to take your consideration, your ideas into consideration when we're looking at the budget. So you're still going to be involved, and there's still going to be constructive feedback coming from you. Once the budget's set, we just work within the constraints of the budget. Now, I would love to be a part of recommending some things as well, because like I said, it's me and my staff right now that are working on other parks that the park board hasn't been looking at. We have another one getting ready to open up sometime next year. We have another trail that is supposed to be constructed sometime next year. So we feel that the city can more efficiently manage the maintenance and the day-to-day activities of the budget. We're here 5 days a week to handle those things, but we still want your all's input on the capital projects, and I think it's really going to be very, very valuable. So that was our idea of putting it together the way it was. We don't want to cut you all out of it, but this is what you all pay me and our staff to do. We're here to handle the day-to-day activities of the city, and that would be a lot easier if we could continue to handle the day-to-day activities in the park. So that was the essence and the thought.
I think the issue with the newest park on Vine Street, before we even started the renovation of the softball field, we had asked several times about what we could do or what we were in charge of, and every answer that we had received back multiple times was that's still part of the city, that's still part of the contractors, and then out of the blue came a huge chunk of money which was at the September meeting. Because we thought that was all on the city and the contractors, and then just that, because we would have set more, probably would have cut, different things out of the softball field just so we could cover that, because it is a park. So, and the park director that was hired was not hired by the current park board. And we did do things to try to remove that park director, and when we did, that's when it was stepped in, and we didn't even have a chance to advertise, interview for somebody else. That person was not our choice, and as soon as everybody that was on the park board got in position, we tried to do it differently. That's just my thought. I think there should be some more changes to the ordinance before it's approved. Thank you.
Mrs. Metz, you said that you had not seen this ordinance until yesterday morning, correct?
Yesterday morning, correct. And then I forwarded it on to the rest of the park board members, which we're currently down one, and there's no auxiliary members.
And that was an email from the administration to you,
Yeah.
and you distributed it to the rest of the board
Yeah.
yesterday morning.
Yesterday.
And the second thing you mentioned about the $12,000, I guess it is, for the park director,
Yes.
and that is now going to the city.
They said it's going to the general fund.
It goes back into the general fund. Check is generated, and it goes right back into the fund. Out of the park board and into the city.
But it's been explained to us that goes to Public Works.
Well, whoever explained it to you explained it wrong, because it don't go to public works.
Well, my question is, did the board vote on that?
No.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address council at this time?
Hello, Beth Newman, 625 10th Street. I just had a quick question. When you get these agendas and they have the code number, the number, whatever it is, and then it says code of ordinances relating to the city fire department or repealing chapters 36 and 36A, every month when I look at these, I really don't know what it's about. So if I had anything to say about any of these things that are going to be addressed, I wouldn't be able to do so without looking them up and finding out what that was all about, or in the context of, has it already been read, or what the background is. Is there a way to...
Anything is first reading is actually first reading, so it's read the first time, open to anybody to look at it. You got a whole month before the council votes on it.
What do you mean, look it up?
No, I say it's available for you to look at after they have the first reading, that's available. We got a whole month before we vote on it. The second reading is when these get passed. This is just like the first reading. So you have the opportunity after this first reading is to get a copy of it and go over it, and at the meeting that we're voting on, just like Mrs. Metz did, come up and say, here's what I think, I've read this, and this is my opinion on this or that, whatever.
How would I get a copy of it?
Email me.
For like, what are all these things?
They're
I
also
think,
available on the website,
on which one? The notification?
KQI.com.
A full description of what all these things are?
It's a summary.
What's on-
After the first reading.
After the first reading. But if you wanted, I don't know, if you wanted to be in the first reading and you want to know what's coming up, so you want to be acquainted with it, you know, it's already been read, it's already been discussed in the first reading, right? There was a discussion? No, you just read it,
It's the first reading.
and that's it, no
Yeah,
talking.
right, exactly.
And then the second time is the second reading where you can vote on it.
That's when you pass it, but you
But
got a
where's
whole
the
month.
talking?
After this, but they read when it comes up for a second reading,
That's when the discussion.
go get a motion, a second, and then there'll be a discussion.
Okay. Would it be such a big deal to write a little summary on the first reading so people kind of know what's on the horizon?
We do, and we can put them up after there's a first reading, we can put them up on the website, the summary's there. So that's, if you want to see them a little bit more depth. Before that,
Before that, it is a draft,
It's a draft.
it's not an actual city record yet.
I know, but like today, you're gonna have some first readings of things here, right?
And as soon as we read it, it becomes a public record.
Okay, but like if I wanted to be present during the first reading because I was interested in a certain thing, I wouldn't really know what it was, right? I mean, I wouldn't be
But
able
the
to.
thing is,
That's why it was the second
you couldn't get up and discuss it either because it's the first reading. Nobody's gonna respond to a first reading.
I'd just like to hear it. I mean, like, why not? Why
Well, you
not
can't.
describe what this is gonna be about, so you would know at the first reading and you would know at the second reading? Like,
You
why
can
not?
hear it live, or you can watch it on tape, or you can go and get it.
I mean, if you're gonna
You're
put
asking
this
to
on-
get it like the day before.
No, just, if this is on the website, right, the agenda,
That's it, yeah.
and these are the four things you're gonna bring up today, and it's the first reading, and you know what they are, it's not a mystery, you know what you're gonna talk about. Why wouldn't you just write a couple lines
Oh, what you saying
to
on the
educate people onto to the issues that are coming up for
On
the
the-
first
on the
reading,
agenda.
so you know what it is, yeah. Because this thing already exists, and like, I just got it through the door.
This is a draft, is all it is. Like you said, it's not even the law or nothing yet.
I know, but it is a subject.
Yeah, you're saying on
It's
the
not
agenda
random.
itself, if it had a little blurb.
Yes, that you would know what this is about. It's about shutting down a park. It's about talking about getting a grant for something, and that way you would understand that, and that context would be familiar the next time you saw it, you know, the next month with the second reading.
But
It
in the
would,
first
I would
reading-
think
in the first
that,
reading,
I would think
you-
that if I didn't know what any of these were, and I got lazy or distracted, and didn't realize, hey, oh my God, that's really important to me, I might not go and research the video or make sure, you know, but if I know kind of what it is, I'm like, oh no, I want to know what happened with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like I said, it's a draft. Until she reads it, it's still a draft. And it's the first reading. And then you got a whole month to read it, get a copy of it, whoever you want, and then come to that next meeting and say, okay, I've read this thing and here's what I think. Here's my opinion. Right before they vote, you'll get your first say about any of it. And then council gets to vote on it when it comes up for that second reading.
Okay, well, like repealing chapters 36 and 36A,
Right.
I have zero idea what that means.
It makes two of us.
But you do.
No, I don't,
Okay,
because I didn't research it.
but you could. I mean, like, maybe it's something important that people
Yeah,
want to know
read
about.
it. Yeah, I could probably read it. I could find it, read it, yeah.
So why not just throw in a couple sentences to educate people about what's coming up on the horizon in city council?
Can we make a simple adjustment, just say that this ordinance discusses, and then just one or
That's
two
it.
lines, can we do that?
One sentence, two
You know,
sentences?
We post it on the web.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Approval of the minutes from October the 3rd council meeting. Get a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Denny, second by Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Next is order and ordinances, the second reading of 2017, number 7 bills.
City of Dayton, Texas, ordinance number 2017, number 17. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 95, to list locations of all parks, increase clarity, remove redundancies, and comply with current statutes. This ordinance amends Chapter 95, titled Parks, of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances. This ordinance amends the ordinance to include a name and description of each park owned or operated by the city, within the city by the city. It amends responsibilities for approval of park use, such as setting the park hours, and permanent approval to the mayor and city administrator. The ordinance also removes the dedication and regulations for areas north of the Dayton flood levee that were commonly known as Dodd Park. Lastly, the ordinance replaces the park board with a board of park commissioners under KRS 97.455 and sets the board's authorities and duties as authorized pursuant to Kentucky Revised Statute. And this is the second reading.
Need a motion?
Have a motion to adopt ordinance number 2017-17.
Motion by Bill,
I'll second.
second by Jeff. Comments?
I have a comment, but after listening to Ms. Metz, you know, I see both sides of this issue. You know, I know that the administration wants a more comprehensive approach to the parks, and they want, you know, they do a lot of the day-to-day maintenance and work, but her one statement, I think, resonated with me a little bit in terms of one person having a lot of say rather than the group. I would really like to see a hybrid of this ordinance that would kind of meld the best of both ideas. I don't know exactly what that would look like at this time, except that I think it would keep the voting power of the park board along with some nuances and city controls, so to speak. That's the best way to say it, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. So my thought is, I would definitely like to see a hybrid of this type of ordinance.
But you know, it says mayor, and it has to say mayor, but you know, the administration actually runs that, will run that.
I understand that, and this is not a dig at you, or
I know.
it's just,
I'm just saying, you know how the day of operations go.
just when anybody unilaterally makes those kinds of decisions, sometimes they have the best intentions, but often they go awry, because we all have certain preferences, prejudices, and those kinds of things. All of us do. I do. You know, everybody does. I would just like to see it be a more of a kind of a team effort, I guess, written in the ordinance. That's just my thoughts.
If I could, Mayor, and just to, you know, just for your point, Joe, just so that you're aware of this, is that the way the board's going to now is under KRS, and all the park boards have to be established under one KRS or another, and there's a couple different options. But unfortunately, I'm looking at it, I don't think there's anything that's gonna, yes.
You don't think we can?
It's gonna find one that's gonna do what you're thinking, you know, it's either kind of one of those, they've got the full budget and all that, then this is the next step, then the step after that is no parking. As to your options of different things in the statute, you're allowed to chapter 97. Because I went through a lot of the different statutes trying to figure out what would work and make sure that we didn't screw up anything that we had now and everything else. Just, and it is one of those, it's a statutory grant of power, and, you know, depending on which type of board that you set up, depends on what type of powers they have.
Current ordinance 9557 has been in place since 1961. That's what we're replacing. No other administration has had a problem with the park board. None. I don't know of any malfeasance. There's a couple of the decisions that I don't agree with as far as spending money, but I don't know that anybody has ever ripped the city off or anything. No community is built from the top down. It's built from the grassroots up. And when you cut out the grassroots from all the decision making, you can call it an advisory board, but as has been pointed out, all the decision making comes to one person. And as Jeff said, you don't know who's going to be the mayor 55 years from now. As Mandy said, you know, he could decide to put a statue of himself up in there. This is just, I understand what administration wants to do, and I agree that every single tax dollar has to be accountable. I agree with that. I also agree that it's easier for the administration, because you're full-time and you're here all the time, to supervise a park director. And most of the equipment that a park director needs is already owned by the city with Public Works. That's why we take half of the park budget and give it to the general fund for the flood wall and all the parks in town. I just think that this is going down a dangerous path. I mean, what about funds that they raise at the concession stand? Where do they go? Same pot, and they have no say over where it goes. Nobody's going to volunteer to raise money. Nobody's going to work that concession stand. What about the other boards? The Civic Club, the Main Street Board. They're under the same thing where they have to present their budget to the administration and council every year, and they go through the city clerk for all of their accounting. So does the park board, but the decision making on those, all of those boards have the authority to decide on spending, and any funds that they raise stays in that fund. I also have a question of legality. The park tax is levied specifically for the upkeep, maintenance, and improvement of the parks. Correct? You throw it in the general fund, how is that tracked?
Well, it goes, whenever it lines into the general fund, the line into it is under the Public Works. They've got a line in.
What about equipment? The playground equipment, for example, the 20,000 that the city, or the 17 that the city has to throw in on playground equipment. I'm just looking down the road here about how this could really spiral.
Well, the main thing is whenever you have your budget, you have to you have each line on there that goes across, and there's a pot of money there's a number attached to it of how much you can spend towards that particular line, and whatever you spend money on in that particular line comes out of that number down to zero. You can't go past zero because there's no more money there. And, you know, as long as you stay within your line, you're fine.
Where's the budget? I don't have a copy of what the proposed spending is or the balance or anything else. The park board budget? I have not received one.
Yes, I sent out park board budgets this year.
This year?
Yeah.
I'm saying we're deciding on this and we don't even know how much money is at stake here for this year. I just feel this is really disenfranchising the park board and citizens hundreds of citizens over the years have given tens of thousands of hours. We have great parks. This system has been working well so far. I think if anything, it's the fault not only of administration, but also us as council members. I've only attended a couple of park board meetings. It may be if we were there at park board meetings to give you some guidance and say, maybe you shouldn't do this, or maybe you should do this. I think that's the hybrid model that you refer to. That's worked well for 50-some years.
Staff can do it better than the park board. That's the problem.
That's your opinion, sir, and you're entitled to it. I
I
don't
know for a fact because the city's cutting the grass and cleaned up the park, completely cleaned it up.
I'm talking about decision making.
Grass in the baseball fields.
Because
I'm not, I would rather, this is like demolition by neglect. I would rather try and resolve this situation now that it's come to a head, work with the park board as it is right now, and give that some time to see if we can make that work to the satisfaction of both administration and the park board and the citizens. That's what I would rather do, and I'd be willing to do as much as I can to help with that. But I don't agree with this, at all. That's my comment, sir.
Anyone else have a comment?
Michael, are there any other cities that have park boards?
Well,
Or they handle most of it?
you get a mix. I've talked with several of them leading up to this process. You'll see a lot that are going in the direction that we propose, that they're taking back control of the park funds, as they already do the day-to-day, but there's still park boards out there. It's time.
Anyone else have any comments? Another roll call, please.
Member Deary?
Absolutely no.
Member Baker?
No.
Member Haas?
Aye.
Member Lynn? Member Bolger?
No.
Member Burns?
Absolutely yes.
It's a tie vote, Mayor.
I vote yes. So ordered. Okay, next on the agenda is first reading of the code of ordinances relating to the city fire department.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance number 2017, number 18. An ordinance repealing section 33.01 and 33.02 of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances. This ordinance repeals section 33.01 and 33.02 of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances. This section established a city fire department in the position of the fire chief and assistant fire chief. And that's first reading.
Next on the agenda is first reading of 2017, number 19, repealing chapter 36 and 36A.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance number 2017, number 19. An ordinance repealing chapter 36 titled Public Records and 36A titled Public Meetings of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances. This ordinance repeals chapter 36 titled Public Records and chapter 36A titled Public Meetings of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinance. First reading.
Sir, if I could, I would like a clarification on this. I know this is first reading, so it's not a commentary. This is directed to Attorney Edge. We're repealing 36 and 36A according to your email because they are already covered by KRS.
Right.
Could you, before we do a second reading and vote on this, please supply to all of council what that KRS is?
Okay, it's just a Kentucky Open Records Code. I can provide that.
I mean, we need to, because a city can do a little bit more, we can be a little bit more restrictive. I want to see what we're doing.
Yeah. No, I actually, just the short version of it is the statutes have continued to change since we passed it back in the 1980s. So it's easier just to not have it on our books and just rely on the state statute as it's evolving and as the law from the Attorney General and everything else and from the courts are evolving. That way we don't have a conflict between us and the state.
Yeah, the KRS is going to cover it
here,
now.
Tom? Yeah, it should be, 61-800
I'll give you a copy.
and 870.
Well, I mean, the KRS itself.
I can send you guys some KRS.
That'd be great, thank you.
That's what we
Okay,
do.
next on the agenda is the first reading of 2017, number 20, compensation and number of authorized positions.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance number 2017, number 20. An ordinance amending ordinance 2017, number 12, setting forth compensation and number of authorized positions for employees under the Dayton job classification system. This ordinance amends the Dayton job classification system by amending the amount of police officers from 8 to 9 and city code director from 1 to 0. First reading.
Great. Next is 2017, number 21, occupational and payroll license requirements.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance number 2017, number 21. An ordinance repealing and replacing chapter 110 of the Code of Ordinances relating to the imposition, administration, and payment of an occupational and payroll license requirement by persons and business entities conducting businesses, occupations, and professions within the City of Dayton, Kentucky. This ordinance repeals and replaces chapter 110 of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances. This ordinance implements the requirements of KRS 67.750 to 67.790. This ordinance requires that business license applications are filed under the certain conditions and payments of taxes authorized under 92.280 for both payroll and gross receipts as set out below. A, based on the gross receipts of all business, trades, professions, or occupations from activities conducted within the city, the amount is outlined in the following table, except as excluded herein. Total gross receipts is the first table, and amount of tax dollars is the second. 0 to 5, $25. $501 to $5,070. 5,001 to $10,100. 10,001 to $25,140. $25,000 and one to $5,170. 50,001 to $100,200. 100,001 to $200,270. 200,001 to $300,400. 300,001, and when I say the one, it's $1, to $400,540. 400,001 to $5,680. 500,001 to $600,800. 600,001 to $700,945. 700,001 to $800,000, 1,080. 800,001 to $900,000, 1,220. 900,001 to $1,001,350. 1,000,001 to $2,001,490. 2,000,001 to $300,000, $1,620. 3,000,001 to $400,000 to $4,000,000, $1,750,000. 4,000,001 to $5,000,000, $1,890, and 5,000,001 and over is $2,030. Every person having four operated amusement and vending machines as defined in this section on his or her premises shall pay an annual license tax to the city in the amount of $10 per machine instead of the amount listed in the table above. 2, every person engaged in the business of leasing or renting real property or portions thereof shall pay an annual license tax to the city in the amount of .01 times his or her gross receipts, but not less than the amount of $100 instead of the amounts listed in the above table. 3, every person engaged as a vendor of fruit, ice cream, sherbet, peanuts, popcorn, candies, and other articles upon the street shall pay a license tax as described in E below, but not less than the amount of $50 per year or $10 per day instead of the amounts listed in the table above. 4, every person engaged in the business of selling fireworks shall pay an annual license to the city in the amount of $1,000 instead of the amounts listed in the table above. B, based on the wages and compensations paid or payable in the city for work done or services performed or rendered in the city by every resident and non-resident who is an employee in the amount of 2% of said wages and compensation.
Hey, Donna, I'll jump in and take the rest.
Thank you, Tom.
You need a water break? The ordinance also sets rules for the apportionment of taxes between taxing districts and administration and payment of said taxes by employer and businesses. The ordinance further requires all documents submitted by employers and businesses are to remain confidential. Lastly, the ordinance sets penalties for violation of this ordinance as follows. Section 110.99 penalty, subsection A. A business entity subject to the tax on gross receipts may be subject to a penalty equal to 5% of the tax due for each calendar month or fraction thereof if the business entity, 1, fails to file any return or report on or before the due date prescribed for filing or as extended by the city, or 2, fails to pay the tax computed on the return or report on or before the due date prescribed for payment, or 3, the total penalty levied pursuant to this subsection shall not exceed 25% of the total tax due. However, the penalty shall not be less than $25. Subsection B. Every employer who fails to file a return or pay the tax on or before the time prescribed under Section 110.05 may be subject to a penalty in amount equal to 5% of the tax due for each calendar month or fraction thereof. The total penalty levied pursuant to this section shall not exceed 25% of the total tax due. However, the penalty shall not be less than $25. Subsection C. In addition to the penalties prescribed in this section, any business entity or employer shall pay as part of the tax an amount equal to 12% per annum simple interest on the tax shown due, but not previously paid from the time the tax was due until the time the tax is paid to the city. A fraction of a month is counted as an entire month. Subsection D. Every tax imposed by this chapter and all increases, interest, and penalties thereon shall become from the time the tax is due and payable a personal debt of the taxpayer to the city. Subsection E. The city may enforce in collection of its occupational tax due under sections 110.03 and any fees, penalties, and interest as provided in divisions A, B, C, and D of this section by civil action in a court of appropriate jurisdiction. To the extent authorized by law, the city shall be entitled to recover all court costs and reasonable attorney's fees incurred by it in enforcing any provision of this chapter. Subsection F. In addition to the penalties prescribed in this section, any business entity or employer who willfully fails to make a return or willfully makes a false return, or who willfully fails to pay taxes owing or collected with the intent to evade payment of the tax or amount collected, or any part thereof, shall be guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. Subsection G. Any person who willfully aids or assists in or procures, counsels, or advises the preparation or presentation under or in connection with any matter arising under this chapter of a return, affidavit, claim, or other document which is fraudulent or is false as to any material matter, whether or not the falsity or fraud is with the knowledge or consent of the person authorized or required to present the return, affidavit, claim, or document, shall be guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. Subsection H. A return for the purpose of this section shall mean and include any return, declaration, or form prescribed by the city and required to be filed with the city by the provisions of this chapter or by the rules of the city or by written request for information to the business entity by the city.
That's the first reading.
That's the longest first reading I've ever seen. Just a couple pages here. You're gonna have to reread that next month for the sale.
Next on the agenda, I'm finished with mine. Next on the agenda, administrator's report.
Okay, I've got quite a bit, but I'll go through pretty quickly. First thing I got is a handicap parking request for 212 3rd Avenue. The applicant meets all the requirements. As for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the handicap parking space.
Second by Jeff. Second. Second by Bill. On Dave.
My question.
Comment.
Is that David Bickers?
Yes, sir.
It is.
How does he meet the requirements?
So he's handicapped.
Says
Is
he's
he
got,
handicapped?
yeah, he says he's got a license plate, he provides, he's got the, his permit.
I didn't know he had a handicap.
Thought he did. We know it's true.
I didn't think he did.
It's a state issue.
Is it so it's state issued?
Anyone else have any comments?
I got the same comments. Is it state issued? Is everything?
It's issued by the county clerk as provided.
He rides that scooter, and I don't think.
That's not even state. Really, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong. You don't need a license for that, do you?
Technically you do, yeah, that's good. That he has. Some ACCs has. But I'll go ahead. That was my
Says he
question.
drives the vehicle, so.
As far as I know, you don't have one. That's it.
He's got all the proper backup and additional off-street.
He's got all the proper documentation.
Anyone else have any comments? All in favor? Opposed?
I have a second one was delivered today, and the only reason I'm bringing it to you all is she already has a handicap parking sticker, she's just moving. So I figured you all probably wouldn't mind. This is for 434 6th Avenue. Obviously, the applicant meets all the qualifications, as already been given a spot in the past, so if the other spot hasn't been removed, we'll remove that and move to 434 6th Avenue. It's for e-moving.
Just moving it 4 doors down.
Pretty much,
I'll make the motion that we move the handicap spot 4 doors down.
Second.
Motion by Glenn, second by Jeff.
What was that address again?
434 6th.
She was at like 442, so that's one telephone pole to another.
One building.
Hey, that's a lot when you came off that one.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Second thing, I mentioned this in the email in the past regarding the pattern book. The pattern book is right now a set of 2 documents. It's basically an ordinance that sets forth the design and zoning criteria for single-family development and multifamily development in Ann Arbor. What I've talked with the county about doing is just combining those into one document. We're not looking to change anything other than combining it into one document. It was designed by 2 different people, so we're going to kind of just conform it so that it's one easy-to-read document that we can edit and change in the future if things were to change. We will clean up some wording, but we're not, it's only going to be wording that's redundant and causes confusion. We're not changing anything as far as the zoning. All I'm asking for is a motion tonight to get the process kickstarted. It will go to planning and zoning in December or January, and we'll come back to you all for final approval. Just like to ask for a motion to allow planning and zoning staff and myself to work on combining the 2 pattern book documents.
Is there any cost involved in this? And I'll make that motion.
Motion by Joe,
Second.
second by Jeff. Any comments? All in favor?
Next thing I have, I passed out, which you all got, the updated copy that have gone along with the estimated budget for the Vine Street Park. And on the second page, I've got an equipment breakdown to kind of show you what, kind of where we stand. Obviously, you can see on the first page the total project cost after you account for the various grants and money we have coming in from developer, municipal aid, check with discount, and the park board. And what I'm showing here is, in order for us to get this going, the goal is to have it installed by Christmas, and then we'll probably do some concrete work if we can on the retaining wall this winter as weather permits, and then in the springtime, come back in and finish the fencing and the sidewalk. What that second page shows you is just what would be owed to Game Time Equipment, which is the firm that we selected out of our RFQ process to procure and install playground equipment. So before we set any check, I want to get a motion from council to authorize this. It falls within the range that I proposed back in the September meeting for the playground equipment cost. So just simply asking for a motion to approve. It'll come out of the general fund, and we'll send it along, hopefully get that underway.
Need a motion?
So move to approve expenditure.
Yeah, the total is $37,878.37.
Which total 37,7837.
Second. Motion by Jeff, second by Danny. Any comments?
My comment is that this is a lot more expensive than we were originally brought to believe. The moving of a park is taking an extra year. If I'd known it was going to cost the city an extra $37,000, the developer, gives us $1,500 or how much was it? $2,500.
But they purchased the land for $15,000.
So it is costing us $50,000 to move my math's not right, but it's costing us way much more money than it's deserved to us. And I'm ashamed of my first vote on this to approve that, or I made the developer pay the whole thing to improve their land. But that being said, we need that park back.
So what, the question I have, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe. And I talked to you about this beforehand. You said you're setting a goal of having the equipment in there by December, right?
Yeah, it was about a 4-week
Already
turnaround and a
December.
1-week installation.
I guess my question is, when are you planning on finishing with the fencing and the retaining wall? Because I think that the fencing is very pertinent to put down there.
Well, it is, but in this case, if we're just talking about the next 6 months, it's not strictly imperative that it goes in. It needs to be the last piece of the puzzle after all the concrete work's done.
I understand that, but I'm looking for the safety of young people and the safety of the citizens there at night with that equipment. So let's try to expedite the fencing as quickly as
We'll
possible.
build the fencing and finish the concrete work in spring as soon as,
Which will be probably March 8th.
Yeah.
Okay.
But once they put the equipment down, they'll mulch it, or what's the surface going to be?
Yeah, it'll be the mulching, and it'll have the borders and everything. All that will go in. So if we get some warm weather in December, January, February, it'll be accessible. We just won't finish the cosmetics of the sidewalk will still be there, we'll just come back and fix. It's already a damaged sidewalk to begin with, so we'll just come back and improve it.
What did we do with that old equipment we took out of
The surplus.
Okay, very good.
Anyone else have any comments?
Well,
Any more comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
I'll give a few quick updates on our grants, some of the bigger grants we've done outstanding, Riverfront Commons grant, and the design of Riverfront Commons. We kind of hit a stall point. The reason it hasn't been completed is we're trying to figure out the trailhead, how this thing will begin, and obviously where it begins is right in the middle of two phases of projects that developers are actually in the process of closing on financing for. So we've been working with the developers on their design and how we're going to incorporate the trailhead in there. We made some progress over the last couple of weeks. So we're getting ready to meet again, hopefully late this week. So Casey can wrap up the design. So we're just going to touch on that briefly. And then you may have seen some surveying crews out on the avenue a couple of weeks ago. That was GRW out of Lexington. They're the firm that we've hired to do the sidewalk improvements on the avenue and the sidewalk on Dayton Pike. They've started to generate some invoices on their design, so they can continue working on that. So hopefully they'll wrap up design here maybe after the first of the year, so we can start construction.
Wait a second, you said they're doing design, not just survey.
The survey is part of the design.
And I know I had asked in the council meeting beforehand that council should be involved in approving the design.
They're not designing it, they're just surveying it. We haven't had a formal meeting, a kickoff meeting, or anything like that. I assume that's going to come sometime in December.
And at that time, will they be presenting their design?
Well, we'll have kickoff
Okay,
meeting.
because you said this design was part of the same phase, that's what I want to
Well,
make sure.
they're designing, it's going to be a long process, but they've been surveying, Dayton Pike and the avenue. We haven't had a kickoff meeting, the next steps will be kickoff meeting with staff and council and some citizens. That hasn't happened.
Okay.
That was a little confusing. And then the last, two more things, but I do want to touch on Manhattan Harbor. I know there's been a lot of rumors going around about this, that, and the other. There has been several months of inactivity down by the Gateway site. Everything is fine. The developers have been in just about every week. In fact, they texted me while we've been in this meeting. They should be finishing the foundation in the next couple of weeks, we're hoping, from what I've been told. Weather permitting, they'll continue to bring in the precast, which has been done for several months. It's coming out of Nashville, the precast for the parking garage. And then weather permitting, they'll do framing for the winter and hopefully complete sometime next spring. That same group is working on closing financing for two other sites. It's the transitional and signature site, which are basically on the other side of the flood wall from the Gateway site, which is the apartment units that are underway. The developers are in the final stages of completing getting ready to ramp up final stages of completing the road towards the marina. They hope to have that done before the first of the year, but again, everything at this point is weather pending, but they're getting pretty close to doing that. The reason that they're completing the road is they have a letter of intent from a national developer for up to 10 to 12 acres on the eastern side of the development. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I know people are confused and frustrated why it appears things have stalled, but there's a lot of good stuff going on. There will be hopefully some planning and zoning meetings and site plan submissions here in the next couple of months and after the first of the year. So if you're interested, keep your ear to the ground on our website and Facebook. We'll be getting information on that. So I just wanted to clarify, because I've heard the rumors, but I just wanted to assure everybody there is a lot still going on, so not to fret.
Michael,
I'm sorry.
you said that the prefab's coming in from Nashville for the project down there. Is this going to be in the large trucks to bring it in? The reason I questioned it and I asked about the police coordinated with our police department, because that could cause a bottleneck down there real quick. But
It's controlled chaos at times. They had similar issues when they started the project.
And there's been chaos, but if we're made aware of, the police department can get involved. Very good. Very good.
Last thing I have, Philip Lyles Jr. started as a new code director slash police officer. His main duty is going to be filling in as our new code director. He's got 27, 30 years of experience working with Newport, Northern Kentucky, and most recently the Seaboard, so he comes with a plethora of information, and he'll be able to, on occasion, assist the police chief and his staff during the day. But his main job is code enforcement. Started on Monday, and he's getting settled in very nice. I just want to let you know.
On that topic, then why are we changing the city codes director from 1 to 0 and adding a police officer?
Because he's technically a police officer, but his duties are code enforcement.
Why? I mean, we have ordinances saying that we have to have, we even have one that says we should have an assistant codes officer. That's been the biggest problem in this town for 25 years is lack of code enforcement. That should be his only job, even if he is an ex-police officer.
Code enforcement and parking is his main job. If the police are in a pinch, God forbid, and they need he's an officer, a smart officer on the street that can assist and has a resident.
Okay, well, this may be a discussion for the second reading. Stop me if I'm wrong on this, Tom. And why are we taking that position and putting it in under a police officer position?
Because he's a police officer.
But in the future, if we want to have, let's say, I'm not saying that we've had any problems with these people in the past, this is the fourth one during this administration that we've tried to get. What if we want to hire somebody who is the best code enforcement person in the land, but is not sworn in office?
You change the ordinance. You change the ordinance.
It seems silly that we're continuing to do that.
It seems like if he's
Can you
going to
adjust
function
your
as code enforcement, he should be a code director first and a police officer second. I mean, that's just.
I'm all for the police department having help.
Basically, that's what he is.
He's not there to help the police department. His main duty, he's a police officer, his main duty is not patrolling duty, it's code enforcement and parking. If they got in a pinch and they needed him, he can't assist in that way because he's a sworn.
Is his salary coming out of the police department or is he coming out of the
Coming down the building.
Building
Coming down the building.
building department?
So he will not be classified in the pension system as hazardous.
He still has it.
Would code enforcement officer be hazardous?
Yeah, code enforcement officer.
Can't be.
But I know
When you tell somebody a long time.
As far as the pension.
A little bit confusing on that one. We'll discuss it further at the second reading.
That's all I have unless you have any other questions about anything I didn't bring up.
Yeah, I do, Michael. Where are we on, we had approved NKDD, working on the comprehensive plan. What's your timeline on that?
I spoke with them today. I don't have a timeline to give you, but I should have one by the end of the week. I was over at the ad district earlier today for a meeting. It wasn't regarding that, but I brought it up and we should do that phone call this week.
So you're thinking after the holidays is when really.
I would say, they have a pre-meeting just to kind of go over things, more than likely just I would say after the first of the year.
And how long do you think that process is going to take all beginning and end?
I'm not sure. I know they're wrapping up a couple projects. I don't know what they typically, how long it typically takes. I would say,
Usually fairly
Takes a
in
while.
progress. Yeah.
I
it's
would
not
say
really done.
well into the
But,
summertime.
probably into next year,
Well into the summer.
I was gonna say 6 months.
Hey, I
There's
don't
planning
want
and zoning meetings, there's
I don't
other
want
public meetings.
to
It's-
provide false hope. It takes a lot of time and a lot of review to do it right.
On the code enforcement issue, I noticed in the budget, so far there is $0 brought in on 04327 for vacant property registration. We passed that ordinance back January, February last year for a $500 registration. I think we have a couple of vacant buildings around town. And how come there's no registration money coming in?
We've sent out the letter, or
Yeah,
Richard sent out the letter.
it's been a small amount of money that came in. Most of the money is where Tom had sent out letters to places that were in foreclosures, and he's got a hold of people. Most of the one that Rich has given me, I send them to a vacant home. The houses are vacant. The mailing addresses are the same as the houses, so I mail it to a vacant house, which I know is going to come right back. but there's no other, I go to PBA, the address is still the same, there's no other place to mail it to. So it's kind of hard to get a payment when you're mailing it to a vacant home that somebody's evicted.
Now, are those, in a case like that where it's returned because it's undeliverable, does that kick in with the, what is it, $100 a day penalty?
I don't believe so.
I'd have to look at the ordinance.
So I think
No,
like
it
within a
just
month,
says
we'd own these
500.
houses.
It just says $500. What I spoke with Tom, and what I can do is we can get a group of them together and put them on the taxes next year. But if the houses end up going in foreclosure and being sold at the master commissioner sale, all that would be dropped. We wouldn't be able to collect on it anyway. That's what's happening right now. The letters are going out and they're coming right back to me.
What percentage? Half of them?
Oh, more than half of them, because most of the houses are vacant, nobody's living in them, and the people have just left them.
That's why I'm still push on code enforcement. Nonetheless, okay. And I imagine because it's zero right now, is because some were made before July 1st in the last
Yes.
fiscal year. So this is year to date of this
I mean, I've
fiscal
got a
year.
folder where they mail them out, and hopefully, you know, the new employee will start giving me more, but
We did put $80,000 of code fines on the tax
we
bill.
put $80,000 of code fines on the tax bills, but
Again, you run into that problem. not collecting.
again, out of the 80, I'm gonna guess that we'll get 35, because of foreclosures, we've had an enormous amount, do you agree with me, Tom, a large amount of foreclosures this year, and you can't collect on that.
And the problem is, even if, you know, no matter what your priority is, like some of them are getting higher priority than what they used to get. But still, you know, when the house goes to the courthouse steps and it sells for $2-3 grand, sometimes a lot less than that. Obviously, after you start to begin to pay the court costs, you still come out never even touching payment of city taxes.
Yeah, we still
And all that
have-
gets wiped clean.
We can't say don't do it because it ain't worth it.
No, I
Taxes
just,
are in total.
but no, what I'm telling you is the practicality of the situation you're in. I'm not telling you don't do anything, I'm just telling you the practicality.
I understand. That's why I was asking about the percentage of the ones that are bouncing.
Yeah.
Is it a big problem, or is it just a problem when it's a big problem when it happens?
It's a problem that's just gonna be the nature of the beast, kind of problem is what it's gonna be. There's not gonna be any way to ever, I don't know, you know, many cities have tried, but there's, to a certain extent, it's just kind of the nature of the beast with foreclosures and a bad, you know, bad market, good market. It's
My point
gonna
being,
happen.
with the new person starting, the new code enforcement person, especially in the winter, you can't write somebody up for pain, it's not fair. That should be a top priority. I know your administration, your bosses, I'm suggesting that should be a top priority to get these vacancies cited and listed for law enforcement purposes, so they're not going into some vacant house all the time. They know it's vacant.
No, we'll continue to do it. It's a great ordinance. It's just tough when you get a lot of those that,
When you
you
get.
know, how much time can you spend really trying to track down all those addresses?
Or someone that doesn't want to be bad.
Right. Understood. It's a challenge. And the last thing I had really was another vacancy, which is the YMCA building. I know we're using that for meetings, and I guess they're going to use it for light updating. We had budgeted for $2,000 in costs for the YMCA building for this fiscal year, and I'm seeing on the budget here so far we spent like $2,900. What are your projected costs for the YMCA building for the whole year?
For the year.
I mean, can we expect
All we're really
pretty
paying
much
are just
$1,000 a month?
utility bills. So utility bills are about $300 a month.
I mean,
I can get you that number, I don't have it for you right now.
So this 2,900 is not only utility bills, what else was included?
We've got, we updated the security system, so we're paying out, there's a monthly security bill. With the security bill, we're not paying.
I mean, there's no cost, so that's just, the only thing that's in there is utility. I mean, we might have did a little bit of painting, there might be some paint in there, we did some paint, but other than that, it's just.
It's a plumbing, we did some plumbing.
It is a
I do
problem.
think we need some more plumbing.
Yeah, we need some more plumbing.
Yeah.
We got enough room to absorb those extra costs that we had planned on and approve this budget?
Do you want to find it?
Because we turned down 18,000 in rent, and And the utilities would have paid too. That's really all I had at this time, sir.
That's all I have.
Next on the agenda is the city attorney's report.
Nothing to report.
Department heads,
The only thing I have is the real estate taxes are due tomorrow. We've been extremely busy. Just want to let everybody know that. So as after tomorrow, there'll be an 11% penalty added. And I want to remind everybody, as Joe just said, December 3rd, it's the first Sunday in December, will be Light Up Dayton. It will be held at the YMCA, the old YMCA building, Second Ferry, from 2 to 5. And then after that, we will head to the monument like we've always done in the past. So I'll let everybody know about the Light Up Dayton. That's all.
Thank you. Chief Auditor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I have nothing to add to my report. Is there any questions on the report submitted to Council?
Michael, I have a question for you. I know I talked to you in the past about, we get a water department, around checking fire hydrants. One adjacent to my house it's leaking pretty bad though. Does the water department have to cut that off, or I know you guys are gonna come back and winterize it, but I just didn't know what's the process on that.
Anything about it? It'd be a water.
Yeah, I can answer that. Karen, I spoke with Karen, and she told me that I needed to call the Northern Kentucky Water District, because you had told me, Bill.
Right.
So I called them, I let them know the location, and they said they'd take care of it.
And that's what, I guess, I guess my question is, after the water department does what they have to do, Chief Autry, your guys come back and winterize it? Is that what we do?
Basically, yeah, they run the hydrant. Then we get back just to make sure they're drained below the freeze line.
Right.
And we do it actually twice.
So when do you think you'll be starting that?
We started last month.
Oh, you did? Okay, very good.
Anyone else?
I saw an article today, Chief, where I think it was Fort Mitchell denied a development project because the water mains that they installed the 6 inches are now down to 4 with corrosion. They have to replace those water mains. Do you see that as an issue here in our town?
No.
Okay. Good.
Anyone else?
Any news on the new,
Pumping pumpers still shoot for June.
Cool.
We talk to them twice a week, and the plant is good to go.
That's great.
Yeah, so
That's fantastic.
We're excited.
Could be.
The other engine is for sale. So we will
Broker it out.
Kind of broker it out.
With that, that's not actually on mine, but with apparatus in mind, any word about the grants from the state or federal from FEMA for the radios?
I'm actually going to a meeting tomorrow night out in County. Kenton, Campbell, and Boone applied for a grant. It got turned down. I went to meet at the training center last week, and we actually got the report card of the grant. There's an A, B, and 3 Ds. So the grant writer who wrote the grants from Kenton County kind of knows what to work on. What we voted on is the chiefs in Campbell County is going around. That's going to be discussed this Thursday. It's one amount. Basically, it would be split between 50, 60 apartments between 3 counties, which might pay for about 3 or 4 radios. If we go through just Campbell County, you're looking at 9 apartments, and we're able to buy a lot more for more radios. That was the discussion that was made by the fire chiefs and the board members last week. And they hired a guy from Burlington Fire Department to actually do the grant writing. He was very successful.
So a guy from Burlington is going to be running the Campbell County grant?
He is a retired Fort Thomas Fire Department.
Aha, that's where the connection is.
He's not a paid full-time fireman. He is a contracted employee for the fire district.
All right.
Very successful with the city of Fort Thomas for many years. Great guy, knows his business. We're excited about it. So we're looking at every avenue to try to help reduce the blow per se with this cost because we know it's going to be a lot. So that's kind of where we are right now. Again, I'm going to meet in Silver Firehouse Thursday. Those councilmen tomorrow night, we need to run it together. But yeah, so actually Kimball County Firefighters Protection Agency will vote on this. I mean, it's not passed yet. This is what we're proposing. And we can't do anything good for everything that we want to do. So we get more bang for our buck.
Great. Well, good luck on it.
Yeah.
Thanks for your diligence.
Good terms you got.
It was a radio grant for the portables. I didn't apply. It was through FEMA. Yeah. It was all three counties. But it was one grant for all three counties. They were going to divide money up between all the departments of all three counties, which, you know, we're not going to get a whole lot out of that, so.
Didn't your guys reach out to McConnell and ask for a little help? Any luck there? Because
I haven't heard anything yet. No.
I spoke with his field representative the other day. He said he'd like to get with us and see if there is anything the senator can do for us. So
the president of our board is Fort Thomas Fire Chief this year, so we get a love of him, I can get with him.
the field representative, he's a good friend of ours, so
Okay.
we'd be happy to get him in front of us. And
So-
even if there's nothing he can do, at least he's listening.
Right, get that out there.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'll get
Okay,
I'll get him in front of us. Yeah, Shane, no.
sounds good. Anything else?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Everett.
Hello, Mayor and Council. The Main Street report for the month of November. At our last meeting, I kind of talked about the announcement coming up on October 5th. The Lodge and 301 6th Avenue received Duke Energy urban revitalization grants totaling $51,300 for the Lodge will use the funds to increase the occupancy of the ballroom with the fire escape. And 301 6th Avenue will be used for planning for rehabbing the building to a multi-use structure with market rate apartments, and the Lunitz has a coffee shop located on the first floor. I don't normally mention upcoming businesses, but since it was in the River City News, I thought I would just keep on, you've already read it. Then on the 14th, we had the front porch concert with the All Seeing Eyes. Down at Vine at 6 is kind of a celebration. Getting those funds, the preliminary drawings for 301 6th Avenue were unveiled there. It was a very nice project. A lot of people in this room were there. We all had a good time. We had Ruby J's Barbecue there, the All Seeing Eyes. It was a good time. We had people very happy. Following up, trees. The 14 trees we ordered from our urban forestry grant will be arriving on Thursday. Working with Rick in planting them. We're going to be putting some over at Gilman Park. And there's also putting some on Clay and Main Street, where we're doing some work putting some new tree wells in. And two will be going in in front of resident properties for asphalt. So that's coming in. The next thing I have to talk about is the Dayton Holiday Market. Working with Beth, Sandy, and another Beth. The Main Street Board and the Dayton Association are announcing our first holiday market. We're going to have the Gravy Building, starting on November 24th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, up through December 23rd. The crafts and gifts, pop-up market, kind of a new thing for us, but it's not common around the region. Owen Rasmussen has wonderfully given us access to the building during this time, so we started to do that. Update on that. And another quick thing else here. A few months ago, I mentioned that we didn't have any commercial rentals in our city. Right now, we have 4. But that's actually really a good thing. One, 507 6th Avenue, where the NKY design was. I have the draft lease out there and the CCAP virtual abatement that's in process, so I would expect to see some action with that very soon. I am probably at least 2 or 3 times a week meeting and talking with somebody and showing them the available rentals. We also have 526 6th Avenue next to the city building. They just finished their facade restoration program project. John Baxter's got people in there all the time looking at that, very interested. Since it was an old catering company, it has the mop sink and plumbing and even the hood in there, so it's very interested in people who are in food service businesses. And along those same lines, 624 6th Ave, as we know, Christopher Fields and Dayton Chili, and 646 Ave, the Old Dayton Bar and Grill. They had just the past week, put friendly signs on there, so we're moving forward on it. So I think we're teeing things up to use a lot of creativity. So interest is strong in properties. The kind of funny thing right now that I have a lot of properties for rent, there's actually no properties listed for sale on the MLS in CBD. But these things I think will happen anyways. And as things get rented, people see that they're getting rented, we'll see some properties that are kind of holding back here so moving forward. It's kind of the wave we go through, it kind of cycles. So I think things are looking really good. I think we had a great Main Street meeting. We had a great discussion on different ways of using color on building on there, and talked about the Dayton Holiday Market, and we invited folks not only Main Street but also the Dayton Order on Church Review and I'll be doing for our bar doesn't meet that often, so it's just a chance to get it done. So any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Avenell.
Based on our reports, October was a good month. Just one thing to add, Zach Getz finally graduated the academy after 23 long weeks. Started in March, finally graduated here in last week here in October. So he's going to be on field training for the next couple months.
Good. Thank you, sir. Donna, any correspondence?
No, sir.
Council, any petitions? Any unfinished business?
Last month, Ben, you said you brought forward the donation opportunity for a piece of land on this Fifth Avenue.
Yes, sir.
So I did take some time to go down and look at the land, and I also took some time to go down and look at the current community garden down across the Kenton there. Also had a discussion with Bob in terms of possible grant opportunities and the way a community garden should be laid out as to minimize any kind of maintenance by our city. Well, if you go down and look at the current area that is in use, it's pretty overgrown. It looks pretty bad. So, you know, in effect, I can't see us having 2 locations for city gardens or community gardens. If we're going to have one, honestly, I would rather be the one that is offered on Fifth. But I would also like to see it be, laid out and constructed in terms of little to no maintenance if we're going to consider that kind of a thing. The other thing is, I don't think we can tie ourselves down to any kind of stipulation that this will be 10 years, 5 years, or whatever. I think if we say we are honestly going to take it and try to make it into a community garden, and Bob, I mentioned that our discussion with the type of garden that requires little to no maintenance, and there might be grant opportunities. That's a smaller lot that can easily be conducted and that maintained, but